It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Yeah, here we go again. Another episode of your Real Estate Breakfast with the latest conversations shaping the property market from Coogee Beach to Burleigh Beach and all suburbs in between. And good morning wherever you are listening to across Australia, or you might be overseas and part of our growing expat audience. Nice to have you along with us. And don't forget about that curated list of real estate agencies that we trust enough to pass along to you if you are selling and you're not too sure, who to trust with your biggest investment. I'll tell you what, even if you've got that list, you might as well add in our trusted recommendation to you. It's just another person to see. What is the harm in that? You can email us and tell us your area that you are in, and then we'll be like a matchmaker and get you connected. As easy as that. It is a Thursday, 23rd of July. August is getting closer. Scary thought, this time next month, we're going to probably start to talk about looking ahead to Christmas. That is scary. And if you are a year older today, some of the famous people celebrating with you, well, Monica Lewinsky, from the Bill Clinton scandal, I did not... You know how the rest of that line goes. Monica Lewinsky turning 53. Woody Harrelson, he is turning 65. And Slash, are you a Guns N' Roses fan? The guitarist from Guns N' Roses, he is turning 61. It was also on this day back in 2005. I read his book. Lance Armstrong won his 7th Tour de France, later stripped of all of his titles for drug use. Drug use equates to cheating. And I didn't know too much about as I was reading his books. But let's take you to Sydney right now. Catch up with Tyrone Shandiman. Now, we've spoken to Tyrone before. He is the Managing Director of Strata Insurance Solutions. You'd remember the whole Lance Armstrong scandal, would you?
I remember the rise and fall of Lance very well. It was a very interesting story, but yes, definitely remember that.
Now, if you have bought a strata property around Australia or you're thinking of buying one, we're going to be talking about this morning because after several years of rising premiums, the strata insurance market is becoming more and more competitive. Existing providers are competing harder for quality buildings, but are you, the owner, seeing any benefit from what is happening? Yes, so how much, Tyrone, could apartment owners save by simply obtaining multiple quotes these days?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot more insurers enter the market right now, and it is meaning that there is more competition. There are insurers that maybe you've gone to in the past, but obviously this year with more insurers entering the market, that means there's more options available. What we're certainly seeing is some of our clients, when we go out to all of the insurers, we're certainly seeing price reductions, not only from their existing insurer because they want to retain you as your client, but also because there's more options, that means more competition.
Yes, because governments across Australia, they're taking a closer look at insurance commissions paid to strata managers. New South Wales is considering major reforms. You've got Victoria, that is reviewing the issue, and the ACT has already taken action. Why are these changes being proposed in the first place? People might be asking themselves. And could greater transparency reduce conflicts of interest, improve competition, and also ultimately lower insurance costs for you, the owner? What do you think, Tyrone?
Yeah, so basically buying decisions in strata at the moment, they're often made by strata managers, and the question when they're receiving such high commissions and payments from certain parties is, are they making buying decisions based on what is in the best interest of the owner's corporation, or are they making buying decisions based on what suits their own personal interests with commissions and remuneration? The governments around Australia, particularly New South Wales, are looking into this because strata managers have a fiduciary fiduciary duty, which means they have to act in the best interest of the owner's corporation, and they're wanting to ensure that decisions are being made without that conflict. So New South Wales is moving towards a position at the moment where their Productivity Commission have released a report with recommendations on the impact of removing commissions, not only to strata managers but also upstream possibly to insurance brokers. That report suggests that it could benefit owners in New South Wales by over $300 million in saved costs. What we do know is that this isn't just a New South Wales issue. Other states are looking at what New South Wales are doing. I know that both Victoria and ACT have both indicated that they are watching the New South Wales Productivity Commission and reforms that are happening in New South Wales and may go down the path of implementing similar reforms. It's like a domino effect. Once we start seeing a few states taking this action, it will start flowing on to other states within Australia.
Yes, because insurance companies, they are definitely paying closer attention than ever to conditions of apartment buildings. You know, you've got your water leaks, you've got aging roofing, combustible cladding. Boy, what an issue that is. It's still very much unresolved, as are unresolved defects and deferred maintenance that can all increase your premiums or even make insurance difficult to obtain. So, Tyrone, has preventative maintenance become, perhaps for owners, one of the smartest financial investments in these times we live in?
Absolutely. So preventative maintenance is something that we recommend, ensuring that you're not paying more in insurance than you need to. So there's a few reasons for that. First and foremost, when you get a defect report on your building, that there are issues or defects with your building, they are required to be disclosed to insurers. Firstly, if they see a defects report that has defects or other building issues, they will likely put a requirement on you to have all of those issues rectified within a certain time frame, and they will also increase your premium in some instances as well. The best way to avoid those extra costs is to maintain your building from the outset and avoid having any issues with defects and issues in your building.
We are talking to Tyrone. He is in Sydney this morning. When we come back, we're going to talk about climate risk is changing and how insurers assess strata buildings. That is up next.
If you're confused about the property market, don't be. Unlock and educate yourself with the latest trending analysis and interviews. Eager to expand your property expertise? Enhance your real estate know-how with us.
Hey, here is a good one. We've got a head-to-head. Mackay in Queensland up against Bunbury in Western Australia. Median house prices. First, let's look at Mackay, $602,000. By comparison, Bunbury, $973,000. Looking at Mackay's 12-month house growth, 20.4%. That's not too bad. Bunbury at 11.2%. House yield for Mackay, 5.4%. Bunbury, 3.8%. Median unit price in Mackay, $420K. $600K, or just over $600K for Bunbury. And the 12-month unit growth in Mackay is 20%, and in Bunbury it's 27.2%. And unit yields, Mackay 6.5% and 5.2% in Bunbury. So let's look at the investor verdict. Capital growth winner is Mackay because those house prices continue to outperform with more than 20% annual growth while still remaining relatively affordable. The unit growth winner, well, that goes to Bunbury because unit values have surged by more than 27% over the past year, reflecting increasing demand with that limited supply. Cash flow winner, that goes to Mackay with rental yields remaining among the strongest in Australia because you've got that house yield at 5.4% and the unit yield at 6.5%. So interesting head-to-head there. It is a Real Estate Thursday. Tyrone is here and we're going to look at flood exposure, storm damage and bush bushfire risks. Now, they are becoming bigger factors in underwriting decisions around insurance for strata. Are insurers, Tyrone, now using more sophisticated climate modelling? And what practical steps can strata communities take today to make their buildings more attractive to insurers?
Yeah, so I think the first observation that any of your listeners would understand is that we are seeing more severe weather events. If you look at over the last 10 or 20 years, you can easily see that there's become a higher frequency and more severity with weather events. That does flow into reinsurance markets, which is what insurers, they purchase wholesale insurance on overseas markets for these events. They are using more sophisticated modelling. What we know, for example, in Brisbane, the Brisbane City Council recently updated its flood mapping to the chance of flooding in certain areas, and that has definitely had a flow-on impact to premiums for customers in Brisbane region. But yes, the insurers modelling, the way that they rate does change frequently. They are very sophisticated models, but basically the underlying issue is that weather events are becoming more frequent and more extreme. As to what strata buildings can do to improve their chance of getting a better premium, claims history is a major rating factor within strata. And what we do know, particularly with storms, your roof maintenance is the number one thing that's going to impact how severe that claim is. So that's one of the key areas that we would recommend focusing on. In other areas like flood and bushfire, maybe there's not much you can do in those areas, but I would say maintenance is the number one thing that you can do to reduce your exposure in claims.
Yeah, just finally, I want to touch on the replacement costs that are continuing to rise, which you've talked about. Construction costs, now they remain well pre-pandemic levels, leaving many apartment buildings under-insured. How often then should owner corporations review their building valuations, and what are the financial consequences, I guess, if replacement values haven't kept pace with today's construction market?
So that's a great question. In Queensland and Victoria, owners, corporations or body corporates are required to get a valuation every 5 years. And if you're in a large building like an inner city high rise, you might want to get one every 3 years because a percent here or there can be massive differences. But for something like a 10-unit complex, maybe not as much of an issue. So what are the two consequences of not updating your sum insured in line with the building value? There are two issues. The most significant issue is if you have a total loss of your building and you are underinsured, that means that you have to cover the shortfall, and that can be millions and millions of dollars. On the flip side, if you don't continue to increase your sum insured over time and you get a new valuation 5 years down the track, what's going to happen is you're going to have this massive jump in your sum insured, and that's going to result in a massive jump in your premium. So when we issue our policies to our clients and issue our renewals, we will always give a 5% increase to the sum insured year on year, just to ensure that one, the building is properly insured and there aren't massive jumps.
All right, we will leave it there. A very interesting topic this morning on the Real Estate Breakfast, talking about strata and how all of that insurance piece comes together. Hey, good stuff, Tyrone. Enjoy your Thursday. And yeah, thanks for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
No problem. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's the Real Estate Podcast, talking properties from 6 a.m. every day from every corner of the Australian real estate market.
Oh, for sure. I think even for myself, I was always in apartments, obviously living in Melbourne. And unfortunately, if they're not willing to sacrifice on the sort of city lifestyle that they require, then they are having to buy apartments.
Millennials wanting to have the same lifestyle as their parents for their first home. They just want to sort of jump ahead of the queue. Is that a thing? Is that something that you've sort of experienced with people that you know?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's not an ego thing, or I think it's actually just the desire to have a home that you live in and it's yours. I mean, I know for myself, you almost move every year when you're renting because you're having to move to a different area, or rent gets too expensive, you have to go to another area, or you're sick of housemates. So I guess that's where the craving comes for your own home. But then with that, obviously, we look at our parents and go, oh, you had a beautiful 4-bedroom home with 2 bathrooms and a big backyard. And then you compare to what we would now get, which is a 1-bed apartment for the, 10 times more price.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.